Well, good afternoon, everyone. A very warm welcome to you. I mean that literally and figuratively. So we got some fans here to cool things off. But very pleased to have Dr. Aziza Glass here with us today, a distinguished alum. And so I thought that she could really kick off a brand new CAFNER Distinguished Alumni Lecture Series. How about that? So Wednesday evening at 4 o'clock, we have a seminar on Tuesday. This could be a Wednesday seminar, Thursday, could be once a month. I don't want to take up people's time unnecessarily, but we'll have Dr. Daly introduce the speaker. I just want to welcome you all and thank you very much for being here. I know there's a lot of scholars, 1890 scholars, Greg Payne scholars, PCA scholars, but of course, our students from CAFNER as well. Undergraduate and graduates. So pleased that you could make it. And interestingly, it's a busy time on the farm. It's kidding season. So almost every day, new babies are born, and hopefully you had a chance to see, and if not, after this. But there's students there getting ready for the rodeo and getting the goats ready to show at the rodeo. So a lot of good things happening there as well. So without further ado, I'm going to turn the mic over to Dr. Daly to introduce our speaker. Put this on here. Right there.
Thank you. Check, check. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, yes.
No?
Okay, and please.
I
don't
need to
let
put
the
on my
sound
professor
know
voice?
that I said hi and I talk about y'all.
Okay.
all the time.
Where is she? Uh,
Yes.
where is she? Oh, she's coming. Aziza Glass. When I first met Aziza Glass, she was not so tall. Well, she has grown real big. Anyway, so today I have the pleasure of introducing my former student, Dr. Aziza Glass. Back then, I didn't have to read anything about Aziza because she was only a student. Now I have a whole list of accolades, and I'm really pleased to read what is here. Dr. Aziza Glass is a doctor of veterinary medicine, graduated from Cornell University. Dr. Glass was born in Houston, Texas, where for years she nurtured a love for animals by watching television documentary shows and perform her own animal behavior stunts. Okay? So you can imagine those poor animals, how they suffered. Okay? So one of our fastest growing she is the expert veterinarian for fresh pets food, one of the fastest growing pet food company dedicated to enhance and promote healthy diet for lifestyle of our pets. Dr. Glass graduated from Prairie View A&M University, summa cum laude, of course, very smart young lady. Okay? And of course, Dr. Parks would not have it any other way. We know that, right? Well, we won't get into that. That's a long story, Dr. Parks. Okay. So she graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Agriculture with a concentration in animal sciences, of course. So you know we had that love-hate relationship, right? Okay. Now, she is a member of the American Medical Association of Veterinary Medicine and Medical Association, the American Academy of Veterinary Acupuncture, the International Veterinary Acupuncture Society, and the American Association of Traditional Chinese Veterinary Medicine. Just for that, give her a round of applause. Dr. Glass is a proud owner of Calms Veterinary Hospital, the SPA. Great accomplishment. Where she focused on the integrative medicine with an emphasis on acupuncture and other alternative medicines. She obtained her certificate and certifications in veterinary acupuncture CVA from world-renowned Chinese institutions. She recently has been named one of Vet Candy's 25 veterinary game. Sorry. I'm telling you. There's too many pages. You see, I'm telling you. Okay. Changes, okay? Now, she has been on numerous television programs. So previously, Dr. Glass was seen on Net Geo Wild's Vet School, and there's a website here and a television docuseries, okay, of which she plays or talked about her contribution to veterinary medicine. She was seen on Live with Kelly and Ryan. She was also seen on Good Morning America and the Today Show. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's welcome our own Aziza Glass.
Hello, everyone. Can y'all hear me well? Okay. I'm going to try not to get emotional.
Oh, sorry. My bad.
Oh, you supposed to give me this?
Yes. Oh, you have one already?
Oh, yeah, I have one. I think my very first time on this campus was in this room. It's just a flood of memories. I'm sorry. Y'all are going to be the first people in the academic space to also know that I'm pregnant. So I'm expecting.
Congratulations.
So also, I'm a little bit more emotional than what I would normally be because of the hormones. So please give me some grace about that. I'm expecting child number 2. Okay, so I wanted to talk about a legacy of unicorns because unfortunately, as Dr. Daly read my bio, a lot of the history of veterinarians and Black veterinarians in particular, I unfortunately did not understand the full scope of it until I actually left Prairie View. I was told during my first week or before my first week of vet school at Cornell, the dean at the time, Dr. Donald Smith, who has since passed away, pulled my dad aside when he found out that there was a student from Prairie View that was entering Cornell's vet school. He pulled him aside because he said that I was the first person from Prairie View ever to attend, but he was a historian of sorts, and he understood the significance of Prairie View when it came to the history of Black veterinarians. So I was very proud of that, but I also thought that it was a shame that I didn't learn about that until I left this space. And how amazing would it have been if I would have understood the scope of what it meant to carry on that torch, being a student here. So hence this presentation of a legacy of unicorns, especially for all the different students that are here, whether you're going to go into vet school or an animal-related field. I think it's important to know your history and where you come from, so that way nobody can take that from you later on, okay? So there are about 130,000 veterinarians practicing in the US today. And in clinical practice specifically, a little over 80,000. So I have a pop quiz. What percentage of veterinarians are of the Black or African diaspora? 2%. Someone said 2, somebody said 5. Yeah, 1%. It's less than 2%, okay? Now, when it comes, and this is actually based off of 2016, but the number has significantly grown since then. But there are over 70 million households that own pets, okay? So what percentage of pet owners, based off of that figure, do you think are pet owners that are of the Black or African diaspora? Just yell it out. 35, 20, 25. What percentage of pet owners are of the Black or African diaspora? We have 20 to 14,
30. Oh.
almost 37%. Okay. So based off, and remember I said that those numbers have since grown, okay, since that last mass report. So if there are less than 1,700 Black veterinarians, and when it comes to the pet ownership, about 26 million Black pet owners, okay, when it comes to their households. So you can see that there's a huge discrepancy in representation and how we can meet those needs. So why does representation matter? I like doing interactive stuff, so y'all could just yell stuff out. Why does representation matter? Bless you. Comfortability, trust. Anybody else? No?
In ideal world, it should not matter.
In the ideal world, yeah, ideal.
We don't live in an ideal world.
Yes, exactly. Utopia. So because of all these different things, and some of them that you already, some of the things that y'all said ties into that. So trust ties directly to accountability and communication, experience, cultural understanding. So all these things are why it's important that you have representation. And within just the health field alone, this isn't just veterinary medicine, but within the health field alone, there are very well documented biases, okay? Whether it's human medicine, public health, veterinary medicine. And these are biases that I picked up as a newbie veterinarian fresh out of vet school, going straight into the workforce. I could clearly see biases from my medical director when it came to students that looked like me coming in to ask for an internship, just like I did a few years prior, or clients that were coming in asking for help for their pets. Is any of these biases new to anybody, or any of these are surprise? So essentially, it's almost like alienating. Yeah. So I love this quote. It's hard to be what you can't see. And this quote really reflects my journey to becoming Dr. Aziza Glass that stands before you today. So I have a very unexpected journey to vet med. This is me as a little sassy, I think 3 years old. And I'm from Houston, Texas. I'm from the Third Ward neighborhood, which is a historical Black neighborhood of Houston. Not far from downtown, not far from where all the museums are. That's where Beyonce's from. Shout out, she lived right next door to my aunt. But the thing that is that you'll notice is that I did not have, wait, is this the? Oh, okay, there we go. Okay, I had no pets growing up, okay? So, which is a little weird for somebody who's a veterinarian, right? But I always loved learning about music, animals, and science. Those were the three things that always captured my attention. And my school choice, I guess you can say, reflected that. I was heavily into the arts. I went to performing arts middle school. I went to performing arts high school. This high school is the one where Robert Glasper graduated from, Brian Michael Cox, who's a multi-Grammy award-winning producer, Chandra Wilson, who is a phenomenal actress on Grey's Anatomy, so many people that are on Broadway and things like that, dancers who have traveled the world. I just knew that I was going to be on the center stage at Carnegie Hall somewhere, singing and doing all that stuff and just being on stage and just expressing myself through the love of art. And then, but I also said that besides learning and loving music, I always loved learning about science and animals. But I had no pets. So the only way that I was able to feed that curiosity was by public broadcasting station, PBS. And in Houston, that's Channel 8. And anything else in between. So these shows were really my world. While other people were trying to go out on a Friday night, I was trying to catch the latest episode of Nature. This was something that I did with my dad all the time. We would bond, and he was the animal person in my house other than me. And so this was something that it was really my hobby. He would get books for me. He would encourage me to read the encyclopedia. And so that was how I learned and stayed hooked onto animals and all things science. And through all of this, I never considered becoming a veterinarian. We already talked about the statistics of Black veterinarians, less than 2%. And on top of that, I had no pets. So there was no reason for me to ever even have an interaction with a veterinarian. So although I knew what a veterinarian was, obviously, you learn about that in school. Welcome, everybody. Although I clearly knew about it in school, children know what a veterinarian is. They know what a doctor is or a physician, just like a firefighter or a police officer. It just never dawned on me that that could be a career choice for me. And then my dad and my parents, I should say both of my parents, in their infinite wisdom, both of them are PV alums, and they were looking for something for me to do that would keep me out of trouble, essentially keep me busy. Idle mind is a devil's playground kind of thing during the summer. And they met someone by the name of Levon Mosley, who was a recruiter for the College of Ag at the time. And he met my dad when he was a science teacher, actually, when he was teaching 8th grade science, I believe, and told him about this program called the Research Apprentice Program. My dad didn't know anything about agriculture. He didn't know anything other than Prairie View. And he said, that's a checkbox. He learned that it was a paid internship. That was another check for a high school student. I had to be on campus. That was another check. And it would be a 6-week program. Check, check, check. Keep her out of trouble, keep her busy, and all of that. So he said, fill out this application. You're going to PV during the summer, and you're going to enjoy it. And it was my first introduction into animal science. And this is me and my group mates, now Dr. Bobby Smith, Bobby Smith II, Mr. Reed Turner, and myself. And we are standing next to our first place research poster. And our research was on the incubation methods of and how it impacts embryonic development of chickens. This summer completely changed my life. If I had not done this program, I would not be standing in front of you today. Besides being in the arts, I knew because I had been alerted that I was going to be signing on with a golf scholarship here at PV. I knew I was going to come here because it was going to pay for my school. But they didn't have zoology. I didn't want to do biology because I didn't want to learn about plants. And that's what I thought biology was all about. It was too much plants and not enough animals. So I thought that I was going to be an engineering student. I thought I was going to do civil engineering. I said, they always building stuff in Houston. There's always some freeway. So I'm going to be able to get a job all the time. But this program completely changed my life. It was the first time I had ever touched an animal. I think week 1, we went out to the swine farm and I was the first person to castrate a pig. And we were given iron shots and I was completely hooked. And from that moment on, this little girl who had no pets, who grew up in 3rd Ward, definitely an urban area, became an agriculture major. And because of RAP, I found animal science, which is the study of domesticated animals. And it was the next best thing I could get to zoology. So that's what it was. And that's me during SWAC championship on the golf team. So that being said, you never know at what crossroads, what pivotal points in your life are going to make such a huge impact in your career. And it could be something as simple as an internship program. It could be something as simple as a talk or a conversation with someone, whether it's a friend, a colleague, a professor. And that's literally what happened to me. So that being said, I am now a student here at PV, but I don't realize the scope of what it means to be at Prairie View, other than my parents loving the fact that they finally got one of their 4 children to come to PV and continue the Prairie View legacy. So I'm going to start from the beginning-ish. Dr. Edward B. Evans, we have a building named after him on this campus. It's the yellow one that's still decommissioned right now, but that's where I had classes. And he was mentored by Dr. Lowe, a Black veterinarian. He was also one of the first veterinarians to become licensed to practice in the state of Texas. And not only that, but he was a professor here at PV. The thing that's also very interesting is that not everybody understands the very intimate relationship Prairie View has with Tuskegee University. A lot of times Tuskegee is like the big brother, I guess you can say, that gets a lot of the spotlight when it comes to that. But PV essentially set everything up for them to shine. Okay, really, when you learn the history, they really did. And he eventually became the dean of Tuskegee, a vet school. And rumor has it that if it wasn't for certain people having very good political power, the vet school at Tuskegee was actually originally supposed to be here at Prairie View.
Yep.
Dr. Evans was also one of the first people to integrate the Texas Veterinary Medical Association, and he also became the first president of PV. So who knew that the very first president of Prairie View University was actually a veterinarian? Dr. Parks, nobody else, right? Oh, Mr. Hodge, right? You gotta learn your history. Isn't that pretty cool? So now we go down what I call the academic progeny. Does anybody know what progeny means? You know what pedigree means, right? Pedigree is going which way, backwards or forwards? And progeny is going, yeah. So we started with Dr. Lowe, who later mentored Dr. Evans. And now we come to Dr. Frederick D. Patterson. He was a graduate of Prairie View. And like I said, he was mentored by Dr. Evans. Remember, he was a professor of veterinary sciences here. He also received a DVM from Iowa State. And what I learned later on was that he also had ties to Cornell University. He was the founder of the United Negro College Fund. Did anybody know that? No. And he was a president of Tuskegee University. And he was the one who helped to establish the funding for the Tuskegee Airmen. Okay. So, and the reason why is because he was a pilot himself. And so he felt as though when he found out that there was rumors that there was an incentive to create a Black pilot squadron, he said, well, why not have it right here at Tuskegee? He had his own personal vested interests. And so Dr. Patterson, a veterinarian, is somebody who is responsible for the Tuskegee Airmen to even being a thing today. All right. Nobody knew that, I bet. So once again, how amazing is that to know that that is a part of the legacy of Prairie View? And so now we go another step down the tree. And I wanted to talk about this person particularly because we have restored, renovated a veterinary clinic that is named after him because he did so much amazing work on this campus. He had so much respect, not only across the state, but I would say across the country and across the world. And that's Dr. Poindexter. So Dr. Poindexter graduated from Kansas State. He was a professor and veterinarian at Prairie View. And he worked closely with Dr. Evans. He also is a co-founder of the PV Trail Riders, who to me is one of my favorite highlights of every rodeo parade ever. I just always swell with pride whenever I see the PV Trail Riders. I think that was the first time that I can even remember seeing, before I ever got to PV, seeing Black people on horses and thinking like that was like such a myth come true. Because you just didn't see it, whether it's on the Westerns or anything else like that. And I think that it's also amazing to know that the PV Trail Riders are still active to this day. I think it's a wonderful testament to his legacy and to the community that that Prairie View and the surrounding areas take pride in. Because if it didn't matter, it would have fizzled away a long time ago. And so this is the building. Of course, everybody has seen it on campus. When I was a student, this was kind of like a ghost town type of building. So I am very happy and I was very thrilled to know that there was this effort, this very targeted effort in order to restore that history and essentially make it a living, breathing museum. And so I wanted to jump back to myself. And sophomore year, veterinary medicine was the first time it ever came into focus for me. And there is a reason why, okay? It was around this time, I was active in Manners. Anybody a part of Manners here? Yeah, okay. I was active in Manners. I don't think we had a pre-vet club at the time. I don't think it was active during that time. But we, the upperclassmen that I admired, I looked up to, they were in the process of graduating, applying to some type of post-grad program. And it was the first time that I really started to hear people around me talk and discuss about applying to veterinary school. And I was like, oh, that is kind of interesting. I knew, because I loved research so much, that I was going to somehow become Dr. Glass. I knew that I enjoyed my rap program. I did it 2 years in a row. And I just knew that it was going to be something. I was going to be Dr. Aziza Glass, but I always thought I was going to be a PhD. And it wasn't until I had an epiphany that two of my professors, Dr. Sella and Dr. Johnson, Barbara Johnson, that I always spoke to, I always loved interacting with them, that they were DVMs. They were not PhDs. And I was like, oh, duh, a vet is a doctor too. I could still be a Dr. Glass without a PhD. I can be Dr. Glass with a DVM. I could go on and be a veterinarian. Instead of studying animal behavior, I can learn all about the anatomy, what makes them tick. If they're broken, how can I fix them? I could do that. Why not? And so for the first time, I finally saw what I could be. So thank you, Dr. Sella.
Mhm.
Okay. My hormones are acting up again.
Mhm.
And during this time, once this became a forethought in my mind, people told me that I needed to reach out to this guy that was right off campus, and his name was Dr. Baker, and I needed to go and start shadowing. It was like not even a question. It wasn't a negotiation. There was no choice. You need to go to Dr. Baker and just shadow him. And so we're going to continue that branch, that step in the academic progeny of PV. And Dr. Wendell Baker, he was mentored by Dr. Poindexter. He graduated from PV. He's a graduate from Tuskegee. And he also served in the U.S. Army Veterinary Corps. He was the first person I even realized that that was even an option. He also taught here at PV, and he owned Baker Veterinary Clinic until his passing a few years ago, unfortunately during the pandemic. He was also one of the first veterinarians in the state of Texas to practice veterinary acupuncture. Hence how I got into veterinary acupuncture. And I wonder if this will play. Oh no. Okay, never mind. Oops. Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, this was supposed to be a video. And this was actually one of my last moments with him. To this moment, he was teaching me horse acupuncture and giving me his different tips. Always an open book, always giving, wanting to teach, welcoming students left and right, very forgiving, very encouraging. And he's somebody who has touched so many Black veterinarians that are practicing in the state of Texas and beyond to this day, that his legacy will be forever cemented to me for when it comes to Black veterinarians in not only the state of Texas, but also in America. So, okay, so after I graduated from PV, I got a very, I should have added this to the thing, but I forgot to. But once again, you don't know how the different opportunities that you get, the knowledge that you gain is going to help play a role in your career. So a lot of people don't know that once I graduated from PV, it was very random, but I also believe in the phrase of when preparation meets opportunity, then the world is your oyster, essentially. So after I graduated from PV, I was presented with the opportunity to go to Nigeria, fresh grad, and I was hired as a consultant to help establish a poultry farm at a farm that was in Abuja, Nigeria. It was an amazing experience. At first, I was like, really? I mean, this is like kind of basic. But the stuff and the knowledge that you gain, you can't take for granted, especially as students here, where you are you're soaking everything up like a sponge. I worked at the poultry center. I did research in the poultry center. I took poultry classes, and to be hired as a young, fresh grad, flown all the way to Nigeria, and stayed there for about a week and a half, helped to design their poultry farm, helped to tell them how they could reuse certain things, even the excrements for other purposes. Those were things that I was able to do. I had the knowledge of it, and it was valuable enough that I was paid for it. And that experience was definitely added to my application to Cornell Vet School, okay? And I was accepted. I think that everything, the breadth of my experience, my passion for veterinary medicine, how I was able to show that not only am I interested in vet medicine, but I could bring something unique to the table, I think is what helped to set me apart. And I got accepted into Cornell University's School of Veterinary Medicine. I graduated and I became the first veterinarian in my family. And there you go. So there is a tradition at vet school, at Cornell. They have this very, whenever Cornell's an Ivy League school, so Ivy League schools have, I tell people all the time, going to HBCU and the Ivy League is very similar in some ways. It's very different in others, but it's very similar in the sense that there's a lot of tradition. And so one of the traditions of Cornell is that all the students from all of the different programs meet at a very iconic building, and we literally proceed through the whole campus in by school, and we eventually file into the stadium, and people are watching us on the Jumbotron and things like that. Well, the only way that people know that what the vet school is traditionally we take the big rectal sleeves, we blow them up, and then we wave them. And so that's how people see the vet students coming from afar, okay? So I was very proudly holding my thing, and up under this, my robe, when I unzipped it, I was proudly wearing my Prairie View A&M University shirt, okay? So going back to the to this quote, it's hard to be what you can't see. If I didn't have my experiences that I had at PV, like I said, I doubt that I'd be having this talk with you today. And we talked about academic progeny and how everybody was essentially a stepping stone to someone else. Show me a successful individual, and I show you someone who had real positive influences in his or her life. I don't care what you do for a living. If you do it well, I'm sure there was someone cheering you on or showing you the way, a mentor. And I think that was very evident in all the different people that we talked about today. How am I on time?
Another 5 or 10 minutes.
Okay. So I don't have a whole bunch of time talking about the animal rights and among racism and stuff like that. Hold on right quick. So let me just jump to this part. Oops, that's not one. Okay. So what is legacy? You can shout it out. What is legacy? History. Something's passed down generation to generation. Someone else says something. What you leave behind, a footprint, okay? A footnote, a footprint. And so I think that when it comes to all of us that are here, when it comes to this university, this institution, Prairie View definitely has a legacy within veterinary medicine. And it's something that's often not addressed. It's often not necessarily acknowledged. Once again, I say we're normally standing in the shadow of the big brother in Alabama, but not only with these icons that we talked about today, or we discussed today, but even the people who have been touched by them, okay? Because they were just focal points on the branch. but how many other people that they touched that we did not discuss during this presentation? And when I grew up and I was looking at documentaries and things like that, learning about animals, this slide looked a lot different, right? And now there are so many different people that are Black or the African diaspora that are now changing the view and what a veterinarian looks like, okay? So if I was a student or a young kid, 10 years old, trying to learn as much as I could about animals, it'll be a lot easier for me to see myself in this space because now there's more people that are actually doing it in these fields. Before, it was pretty much only white men or the voices of white men on these documentaries like Nature or Nova, okay? And I'm also very proud to have contributed to that as well. This was not something that I planned. It's something that kind of fell in my lap. Once again, when preparation meets opportunity, remember I said that I always thought that I was going to be on stage, being and like embracing the arts. What I didn't know is that preparation of being on stage, although I was not at Carnegie Hall, it translated through the camera lens. And that skill set that I loved and I leaned into as a kid came back and served me a completely different way. So that now I'm able to help people see what they can be, whether it is a veterinarian, whether it's somebody who just loves animals, whether it's somebody who is a pet parent, okay? Because there's always been bias about how Black pet owners show up for their own pets. And because of the representation that we have on television today and other media platforms, that conversation is changing. So what I say is that I now am grateful that I've been able to continue that. And I hope that that'll be a part of my legacy, whether it's for Gen Z, Alpha, whatever the names are now. And I recognize the shoulders that I stand on. And I'm grateful to be able to have a platform where people can stand on mine later on. So that's everything.
Thank you very much, Dr. Glass. Greatly appreciate you. You mentioned the Prairie View Trail Riders Association. It's great that you mentioned them because earlier this week, we had them on campus.
Oh,
So-
wonderful.
Yes, and so we were very pleased that we were able to host them. Originally, it was supposed to be on our farm, but rain intervened, became very soggy, so we hosted them nearby. We also are in the process of wanting to start an equine studies program. We have a rodeo club, so very pleased that we're moving in that direction. But I do want to take this opportunity to introduce Amory Williams, Senator Williams, and she is a great moderator. So I asked her to do the moderator of the Q&A. Amory, take it away.
Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Glass? Dr. Glass, excuse me. Questions? Okay. Yes, I do have, oh, you have a question? Okay, did you have a question?
No.
Here you go.
Whoever.
That was a really wonderful presentation. So what do you think, how hard it is to graduate from a vet school? How hard it is to,
I would say, let me just put it this way. It was easier giving birth. I literally like pushed once. I had one practice push and then like a real one and he came out. When it came to, whenever people ask me, what is vet school like? I tell them it's like trying to drink from a fire hose. It's so much information all at once. It is a marathon. It is not a sprint. Every course that comes seems like it's the hardest course yet. There's always another exam. There's always studying. I did not understand how some of my classmates were like partying as much as they were, kind of thing. And then I realized they had some shortcuts on some stuff that I wasn't willing to do. But it's gonna be one of the hardest things that somebody ever does in their life. And at the same time, now that I've done it, and I'm practicing, it's not something, if I had to do it all over again, I would probably change how I would definitely make changes in how much pressure I put on myself. I knew that I was the first person from PV. I was one of like six Black people in my whole class. I was the furthest away that I ever been from home. So there was a lot of pressure that I put on myself unnecessarily, okay? Knowing that I wasn't just representing myself, I was representing my community. And so I think that that would be the only thing that I would change, is to give myself more grace and to enjoy it a little bit more and not take it so serious, because I was taking it seriously.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Before I ask my question, I wanted just to briefly introduce myself. My name is Amory Williams. I am a junior here in the College of Agriculture, and I'm also an aspiring veterinarian myself. And so my question to you is, considering your rich and long history here at Prairie View A&M University, and this just came to my mind, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but would you ever come back and be a veterinarian here at Prairie View?
Did you set her up with that? So the main thing, so that has been discussed.
Okay.
The main thing is time.
Mhm.
And I have part of the discussion has been me coming to teach a course or two. I am also trying to be realistic with my work-life balance right now. And being the owner of a veterinary hospital is not for the faint of heart. So it is definitely on the table. And so, yes, the answer to your question is yes, I will consider it, and I am considering it. I'm trying to figure out how to make that happen without working myself to the bone. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate
Okay.
that. Any questions? Yes. Excuse me.
Hello, my name is Samantha Anderson. I am also a senior pre-vet. I want to be a veterinarian as well, but I want to do more exotic animals and stuff like that. I was just wondering how you kind of like what was, you said how you were the farthest away you've been from home. So how were you dealing with that? Like, how did you get a support system, and how were you kind of focusing on your mental health while being in veterinary school? Because I know that it's a strenuous process.
Yeah, so you're asking specifically, how did I create a support system when I was in school, right? Okay, so that was something that was a must-have for me. Not a lot of people know this as well, but around the time that I got to vet school, not only was I homesick, I had some family members that had some very serious health issues. I was worried sick about them as well. School was hard, but I mean, I already knew that that's what I was getting myself into. So I actually started the process of potentially transferring to A&M. And Bobby Smith, that was in that picture, also happened to go to Cornell the same time that I did. And so we essentially became each other's support system. We eventually found a Black Baptist church where they had like a home, like a program where they paired up parishioners with students to kind of help provide them meals if they wanted, something to give them some, what do they call it? Home care or something like that. Yeah, watch care. Yeah. So we were definitely active in the church once we found it. And there was the Cornell BGPSA, the Black and Graduate Professional Student Association. Bobby eventually became vice president because he was so active and we hung out so much. We became very active. And that group of people was a saving grace for us. We ended up it would be Friday nights or Saturday nights. We would just go to somebody's house. There's one person in particular had a panini press. It made any like regular turkey sandwich taste amazing when it's like 2 o'clock in the morning. We were drinking. We were playing like Sega, like Sonic games and stuff like that. Venting, talking about, can you believe so-and-so said this to me? A lot of times the people that were in this group were the only Black people. I was one of 6. They might have been the only one in their whole department. And so we really were each other's lifelines. And then the last one, of my sister's friend's cousin happened to live in Ithaca. We eventually linked up and they literally adopted me even more so than the church watch care program. And to this day, I call them my second family. I would do my laundry there. I learned they're West Indian, so I learned how to make curry. I learned how to make like all these different things because before it was only Tony Chachere's. Then I learned how to make some stuff with curry, cardamom, cumin, all this other kind of stuff. It was like spice overload for me. I loved it. But those were the things that helped keep me grounded. And I no longer felt the need to transfer. And I abandoned that idea. Was like, I'm not giving up, I'm staying here. And then 4 years later, I graduated. But it's because it's important that you're thinking about stuff like that, because having support system, having something away and not even associated with the vet school really helped me to step away when I needed to step away and truly have a mental break. Unlike some of my classmates, they did everything together. They lived with each other, they studied with each other. When they went on vacation, they vacationed with each other. And they were like, Aziz, you should come. I said, you know what? I just had finals. I need a break, and that includes you. Sorry, not sorry, kind of thing.
Anyone? Any more
Oh,
questions?
there's one.
I do have one more question. Do you mind if I have one more question? Okay. I want to ask my question.
Okay.
Just in passing, I know one of the biggest, I guess you could say, challenges that most students face now, especially undergrad considering vet school, is the financial burden that you guys have after vet school. So what would be your advice to students wanting to pursue a career that they are very passionate about, but they aren't as open to the career because of that responsibility they will have after obtaining their degree?
I would say it is okay for you to take your time to figure out this is what you really want to do, because it is very expensive. With the way that things are going on right now, I don't know what the recruitment is going to be like for the U.S. Veterinary Army Corps.
Yeah.
I don't know what the Public Loan Service Forgiveness Program is going to look like in 2 years, not even next year. And that's just honest, being honest about it. I graduated from Prairie View debt-free. I cannot say that anymore. Okay, I definitely have student loans from vet school. And so I would just tell folks, if you can go statewide. I happen, at all the schools, I ended up going to the most expensive one. So if you can apply to Texas Tech or A&M to help offset the cost, because those out-of-state fees are a doozy, then do so. Apply to as many scholarships as you can. But once again, also make sure that this is what you really want to do. And unfortunately, you have some people, and I had some classmates like that, who did not, once they got into school, even after they graduated, they realized they didn't even want to do it. Yeah. So I tell folks all the time, don't rush yourself because you feel like you have to be on this schedule of success. I'm guilty of that sometimes myself. Take your time. It is just as important to learn what you don't like as what you do. Yes. Okay.
Thank you so much. I do
You're
have to
welcome.
leave because I do have class, but I really appreciate you sharing your testimony and just your entire presentation. Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.
So we do have a reception soon after this. There'll be an opportunity to interact with Dr. Glass. So please do that. Ashwani, sorry, I'm going to let Mr. Hodge ask his question because he had his hand raised. And so, and it's very important that he asks the last question for this session because of what I'm going to announce after this.
Thank you, Dean. And thank you, Dr. Glass. I have to give you this testimony, and I want to step back into your legacy part of your presentation. When I came to Prairie View, I was going to I majored in ag ed, and I wanted to be an ag teacher. So I avoided all of the animal science classes that I possibly could. I went to the vet clinic very little. I might have did it one time. But when I graduated with my master's from Prairie View, I went to Hunt County, which is Greenville, Texas, is the county seat. And I had to go out on one of the largest farms in Hunt County, row crop farm. And when I got there, this person had never really done any work with government programs as far as crop loss and all of that, disaster payments or whatever. And we got to talking. He already had, apparently he couldn't Google me, I don't think back then, but he already knew that I graduated from Prairie View.
Mhm.
And early in the conversation, one of the first things he asked me is, did I know Dr. A.N. Poindexter? And I really couldn't tell him a whole lot about it because I hadn't been over at the vet center. But I want to tell you, when I came back in this position in 1989, the first stop that I made on this campus was at the vet clinic. And it became so good. I was living in College Station at the time. And you know, the Texas A&M Diagnostic Lab is there.
Mhm.
So I bonded with Dr. Poindexter where I would take his blood samples back to College Station so he wouldn't have to drive. I had a lobster pool. And the whole time I had that dog, I never paid any service fees over at the Poindexter building. So I just want to tell you the legacy. And the reason that gentleman told me that, it wasn't that he really knew Dr. Poindexter. He was a kid, but it was his daddy. Dr. Poindexter had worked on a horse in the early 50s on his daddy's place. And he would always do such a good job. The horse would always come back apparently in good shape. So it's those kinds of legacy. You never know where they reach and who you will run into that will do that. So that's a part of the legacy that I wanted to share with you. It is so important that you gave the lineage about the veterinary program here at Prairie View. So thank you very much.
This is a great segue. Speaking of legacy, and let me turn the tables here just a little bit. I may get emotional now, not because I'm pregnant, but because this is Mr. Hodges' last week here with us. So many of you may have heard that he is retiring from USDA after 48 years of service. So to talk about a legacy, and of course, his legacy will continue because, you know, he leads the 1890 Scholars Program. How many of them are here? All right, great. So that's one of his legacies, you know, the Greg Payne Scholarship and many other great accomplishments that Mr. Hodge has had over the years. So we do have a reception. It's going to be a surprise for Mr. Hodge, because we'll plan a bigger retirement reception here in a little while. He only gave me like 3 days notice. He told me, this is, I'm retiring. And when? Oh, Friday. Friday will be my last day. So he told me this on Monday. But anyway, we're going to have a reception for him, pizza and cake and so on, outdoors. And so Dr. Glass will be here. So those of you who didn't get a chance to ask a question, I apologize. In view of the limited time we have, you can have a question during the reception. So please, everyone is invited to the reception. And Mr. Hodge has some pictures here to share with the scholars. So take it away again, Mr. Hodge. You have the
Yeah.
last word.
Oh my God, Dean. You poured it on thick here. But first of all, are there any Greg Payne scholars here? Any Greg Payne? Okay, we'll get those out. We'll leave them with Dr. Sanders, Miss Sarah, so that they can pick them up. We'll send them an email. But all of the USDA scholars, would you will come down front, please? And Dr. Glass, would you have the pleasure of presenting these to them?
Oh, okay.
Yes. So come on down.
And there's 24 scholars, not just from ag, but from business and engineering and
Oh,
computer science and so
wonderful.
on. And many of them are in class.
So
What you want me to do?
just give it one of these. And one of these. And you're presenting this to Miss Carrington Thompson, who is a scholar with concentration in plant and soil science.
Okay, all right. We need that. Monsanto trying to take over.
And our next recipient is Miss Kira McLeod, and she is concentrating in Dr. Sanders' area of human nutrition and food.
Oh, wonderful. That's wonderful.
And our next presenter recipient rather, is Miss Anaya Byers, and she is concentrating in agribusiness.
Yes, good.
Our next presenter is, how can I say presenter? Next recipient is Miss Lisa Patone, and she's our next door neighbor. She's concentrating in marketing in the College of Business. And our next recipient, well, he has his, but you can go over there and pretend you're giving it to him. I thought he was leaving. This is Mr. Cole Lucas, and he is a recipient majoring in agriculture with a concentration in agribusiness.
Okay, wonderful. Beautiful.
And of course, she didn't stand up when I asked her, but she, the moderator, Ms. Amari Williams, she is one of our Greg Payne scholars. That's a family who we had a student that they did a scholarship in his memory. He was a grad student, came from Tarleton to Prairie View, got his master's under Dr. Parks, passed away at the early age of 33 in 2003. And his family established a scholarship in his name. And so far, they've awarded over 107,000. So that's 107 students that they've assisted. So Amari Williams, our Greg Payne scholar. Thank you very much. Dean, I turn it back over to you. You got to have the last word. You're a dean.
Well, thanks again, everybody. We're going to have a reception outside, so please